They thought it was just a prank. But this grandma's got paint and a plan. Hey there, sweetheart. Before we get into the story, tell me in the comments, do you have grandkids who love to get a little too creative? And where are you watching from? I read every single message, and don't forget to subscribe, because you are not ready for what I did to my grandbabies after they turned me into walking art. When you're a grandma, there are certain things you learn to expect. Crumbs in your bed, socks mysteriously disappearing from the dryer, Tupperware going missing because someone decided it was a bug house. But what I never expected was waking up the morning of the church charity brunch looking like a cartoon character on Mardi Gras. Let me back up. My name is Darlene Johnson. I'm 69 years old, a retired librarian, a Pisces, and a woman who prides herself on keeping things in order, especially her appearance. Every year, our church hosts a spring charity brunch. Hats, gloves, tables full of deviled eggs, and 100 women pretending their pound cake was homemade. I'd been invited as a special guest this time to open the event with a short speech on grace through the generations. I even bought a new lavender suit, the kind that buttons just right and makes you feel like royalty in orthopedic flats. So naturally, I wanted to look my best. The weekend before the brunch, I drove out to visit my daughter Tasha and her family. They live about 40 minutes outside town in one of those modern houses with kitchen counters that look like something off a cooking show. She has 2 kids, Mikey, age 10, with a laugh that sounds like mischief in stereo. Chloe, age 7, with eyes like a Disney villain and dimples you can't trust. I love them both to bits. Too much, maybe. Because that night, after game night and homemade mac and cheese, I kissed them goodnight, took off my makeup, slipped into my favorite silk scarf, and went to bed without locking the door. Big mistake. At some point in the night, I stirred, felt a tickle near my cheek, heard a whisper, a giggle, a hush, thought it was a dream, fell back asleep. I woke up around 6:30 the next morning to the sound of Tasha shrieking in the hallway. "What in the— Mama, get up!" I sat up groggily, blinking, and immediately felt it. My face was tight, like something was drying. I touched my cheek, felt bumps, sticky, and then I looked in the mirror. Let me tell you something. No one is ever ready to see their own reflection covered in rainbow Sharpie, glitter glue, and googly eyes. There were hearts on my forehead, whiskers on my cheeks, Grand Meow written across my chin. They had even added freckles to my neck and drawn a full dragon on my décolleté. I stood there, frozen, while Mikey peeked into the room, holding back a laugh so big his ears turned red. Chloe peeked behind him and whispered, "You're beautiful, Grandma, like a unicorn queen." Tasha was horrified. She paced around me in her robe. "Mama, I'm so sorry. I don't even know. I thought they were asleep." I blinked, then asked calmly, "Where did they get the glitter glue?" She stammered, my craft drawer?" "And the googly eyes?" "Mikey's school project." "And the permanent marker?" "Chloe stole it from my purse. I'm so sorry." I didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't even get angry. I just nodded, took a deep breath, and said, "All right, baby, let me shower. I'll still go to the brunch." It took me 45 minutes and half a bottle of baby oil to get most of it off. The glitter is forever. But I made it to the event, fashionably late, with sparkles still clinging to my earlobes. I smiled, gave my speech, made the crowd laugh, and pretended everything was fine. But deep down, oh, honey, I was plotting. Because the thing about being a grandma, you don't stay mad. You get even, with elegance, and just the right amount of washable markers. They thought Grandma would forget, but Grandma was just waiting for nightfall. That Sunday afternoon after the brunch, I came home still wearing a few specks of glitter and a righteous grin no soap could scrub off. Mikey and Chloe greeted me at the door like nothing had happened. "Hi, Grandma. Did you give your speech? Did they love it?" I smiled sweetly. "Oh, yes, they loved it. I was the highlight of the entire brunch," I said, brushing a stubborn sequin off my collarbone. "In fact, people are still talking about it." Chloe beamed. Mikey looked nervous. He knew. Somewhere deep in that little boy brain, he knew. The rest of the evening, I acted perfectly normal, helped with dinner, read Chloe her bedtime story, played a round of Uno with Mikey and pretended to lose on purpose, laughed at all their jokes, kissed them both goodnight. Then I waited. At 11:42 p.m., I crept down the hallway with a tote bag full of magic. Inside, washable markers, Non-toxic, of course. I'm petty, not evil. Glow-in-the-dark face paint. 2 packs of googly eyes, cotton balls, a bottle of honey red lipstick, and 1 purple feather boa. Oh, and my phone, because this time there would be evidence. First stop, Mikey's room. He was sprawled across the bed, mouth open, snoring lightly like a baby dragon. I got to work, gave him a unibrow, drew a tiny mustache and curly French beard, covered his eyelids with googly eyes so when he blinked in the morning, chaos would ensue. Added glow-in-the-dark stripes on his cheeks, painted his fingernails bright orange, and gently placed the purple feather boa around his shoulders like royalty. Second stop, Chloe. This one was riskier. That girl sleeps like a hawk in a tiara, but I've been a mama too long to be clumsy. With the precision of a cat burglar and the heart of an artist, I gave her whiskers, a bright pink nose, blush made from red lipstick and cotton ball smudges, tiny hearts on her hands, and honey dots on her cheeks, sticky but harmless, and she loves honey. Then I took photos from every angle. My grandbabies turned into sleepy circus stars. By 1:15 a.m., I was back in bed, grinning like a fox in church. I slept like a saint. The next morning started beautifully. Tasha had an early meeting and was rushing to get the kids ready. From the kitchen, I heard, "Mikey, Chloe, come on, let's go. Get your shoes." Oh my goodness. Beat. Mama? I sipped my coffee. Mama, what did you do to my children? I walked calmly to the hallway. Mikey stood blinking furiously at the hallway mirror, half asleep, boa still around his neck, eyes wide in horror. Chloe was trying to wipe the lipstick off her cheeks with the back of her hand, which only made her look more like a tiny warrior clown. I couldn't help it. I laughed so hard I had to hold the doorframe. Tasha was not amused. "Mama, I have to take them to school." "I know," I said, sipping again. "They look adorable." "Mama." "They didn't wash off my glitter, remember?" She blinked. You planned this?" "Darling," I said, setting down my mug, "I'm retired. I have time, creativity, and access to Amazon Prime." Eventually, Tasha saw the humor. She tried to scold me, but every time she looked at Mikey's googly eyes, she broke into laughter. The kids? Once they realized it was washable, they loved it. Chloe begged to keep the whiskers. Mikey wore the boa to breakfast and said, "This makes me feel powerful." At school drop-off, Tasha pulled me aside. "You are unbelievable, Mama." I winked. "And unforgettable." That night, Mikey slipped a note under my door. It said, "Grandma, your prank was epic, but next time, war. Love, Mikey." I wrote back, "Challenge accepted. Sleep with one eye open. Love, Grandma." And from that day on, we declared it an official tradition, the annual Prank Truce Weekend, one night a year. Kids versus Grandma. Creative only. No permanent damage. Photos mandatory. I kept the first year's photos in a little album titled "Revenge is a Dish Best Served" in washable marker. And when I showed it to the church ladies the next week, they laughed until their dentures nearly fell out. One even asked me to teach a workshop. It started as a prank war. Then the internet found us, and suddenly I wasn't just a grandma, I was a trend. It began with a single photo. Tasha, despite her initial horror, couldn't resist snapping a picture of Mikey standing proudly in the kitchen, feather boa draped over his shoulder, face striped with glow paint and grinning like a man who knew exactly what kind of chaos he'd unleashed. She posted it on her private Instagram with the caption, "Never prank a retired grandma. Never." Then added the hashtag Grandma Got Revenge. Within 6 hours, her inbox was flooded. Friends, coworkers, moms from school, even Pastor Lonnie's wife commented, "I want to be this grandma when I grow up. Tell her I said she's a national treasure." My mom saw this and immediately bought glitter glue. By morning, someone had reposted it on Twitter, then Facebook, then TikTok. The video compilation hit 3.2 million views in under 48 hours. Clips of me tiptoeing through the hallway, set to dramatic music, close-ups of Mikey's googly-eyed glamour shot, Chloe waking up, blinking at her sticky honey cheeks and whispering, "I look like a breakfast burrito." And then my voice over a freeze frame, "I'm retired. I have time, creativity, and Amazon Prime." People lost their minds. They called me the Glitter General. Grandma Picasso, the Sleepy Time Avenger. One commenter wrote, "This woman is a menace, and I love her. Protect her at all costs." Another said, "My grandma forgot my birthday 3 years in a row. I'm mailing her this video as inspiration." Within a week, 3 different news outlets reached out. A popular family podcast offered to interview me. I got DMs from complete strangers saying, "My mom and I haven't laughed together in years. We watched this and cried laughing. Thank you." At the grocery store, someone recognized me in the baking aisle. "You're the prank grandma." I blinked. I suppose I am. They took a selfie with me next to the powdered sugar. I sent it to Mikey. He wrote back, "We created a monster, a glittery monster." But here's the thing, I didn't want to be famous, not really, but I loved what was happening. Parents telling me it helped them reconnect with their own moms, grandchildren writing in to say they pranked back, with homemade art and gentle affection, nursing homes hosting wholesome prank nights. One even held a Granny Got Back costume contest. I couldn't stop smiling. Of course, Mikey and Chloe wanted a rematch. They started plotting immediately. I overheard Mikey whispering about temporary hair dye and googly eyes on the toilet seat. They asked me straight up, "Grandma, can we do it again next year?" I sipped my tea and said, "Honey, I'm already planning 24. That weekend, I got a letter, a real one, in an envelope with a wax seal and cursive handwriting. Inside was a hand-drawn picture of me, standing triumphantly with a paintbrush in one hand and a tea mug in the other. It was from a little girl named Sadie, age 9. She wrote, "Dear Grandma Darlene, I wish you were my grandma. I showed your video to my Nana, and now she says we're going to prank Papa next weekend. Thank you for being brave and funny. Love, Sadie." I cried a little, then folded the letter and put it in my recipe book, the one where I keep the best things. At church the next Sunday, the pastor stopped mid-sermon and said, "Sister Darlene, if you ever decide to prank the choir, I just ask that you aim for the tenors." The whole congregation laughed. I curtsied. Well, more of a knee dip. These joints aren't what they used to be. After service, a woman in her 80s came up to me with tears in her eyes. She said, "I haven't seen my grandson in 2 years. I sent him your video. He called me last night. Thank you." I hugged her, tight, and whispered, "Next time he visits, draw him a mustache." She grinned. It started with laughter, but turned into a legacy. After the viral whirlwind of our prank war, things could have settled down. But when you become a glitter-wielding icon to millions of strangers, settling isn't really an option anymore. Especially not when your grandkids look up at you over Saturday pancakes and ask, with syrup-sticky grins, "Grandma, what's next?" That question lit a spark in me I hadn't felt in years. A kind of creative, slightly dangerous spark that once made me decorate the entire church fellowship hall with hand-stitched hymn covers without asking anyone first. So I pushed my coffee mug aside and said, "You want to film something?" Chloe's eyes got big. Mikey's chair scraped back like he was launching into space. Yes! And that's how the Bittersweet Prank Challenge was born. A simple concept, one harmless prank, one sweet gesture, filmed as a skit shared with the hashtag #BittersweetChallenge. Mikey suggested we make it a series. Chloe insisted on costumes. Tasha, who had originally sworn she'd stay out of it, ended up co-writing the scripts. We turned the garage into a studio, hung a sheet for a backdrop. Mikey designed the logo using an app I'd never heard of. I baked cookies for the crew, and every Friday we filmed a new skit. Episode 1, the toothpaste Oreos plus hug attack. I offered Mikey an Oreo, filled with mint toothpaste. He took a bite, gagged, then I tackled him with a giant bear hug and whispered, "Gotcha, sweetheart." Episode 2, the whoopee cushion confession. Chloe slipped one under my seat. I reacted with full drama, then handed her a cupcake with "nice try" written in frosting. Episode 3, the alarm clock tango. Tasha's idea. She set 10 alarms to go off around the house at 6 a.m. I responded by replacing her phone ringtone with a recording of myself saying, "Wake up, it's grandma time." It went viral. Again. People loved it. Not just because it was funny, but because it was real. 3 generations, being silly, being kind, being together, and somewhere between the glitter and the Oreos, something shifted. I started getting letters. Not just from kids. From other grandmothers, widows, women who hadn't seen their grandkids in years, men who missed their mothers, families who hadn't laughed together since, well, before the world got so complicated. One woman wrote, "I watched your videos with my daughter after my surgery. We laughed so hard we forgot to be scared for a minute. Thank you." Another said, "You reminded me how to be playful again. I started painting again because of you." Then something happened I never expected. A local school invited me to speak at a family and joy assembly. Me, a grandma with glitter on her collar and a phone full of prank clips. They handed me a microphone in front of 200 kids, teachers, and sleepy parents. I told them about Mikey and Chloe, about how pranks turned into tradition, about how laughter is sometimes the only medicine that works. And at the end, a little girl in the front row raised her hand and said, "Can you be our grandma too?" Back at home that night, I sat on the porch swing alone. The house was quiet. Tasha had put the kids to bed. I looked up at the stars and whispered, "Jack, you wouldn't believe what your old girl's up to." I imagined him chuckling, calling me trouble in pearls, like he used to. This wasn't just for fun anymore. It was something else. A way to be remembered. Not as the lady who once fell asleep in her chair during Thanksgiving, but as the grandma who fought back with color, who reminded the world that age isn't the end of mischief, it's just the beginning. Every family has that one serious relative. Ours tried to shut down our fun, but ended up going viral instead. It all began with a phone call on a Thursday morning. Tasha was making coffee. I was scrolling through comments on our latest Bittersweet Challenge episode, the one where Chloe tricked me into brushing my teeth with whipped cream instead of toothpaste. She picked up the phone and said, "Hi, Aunt Loretta." I immediately froze. Even the cat stopped walking. Aunt Loretta, my late husband Jack's older sister, was a woman with the moral backbone of a Puritan librarian and the emotional flexibility of a piano leg. She was 75, wore beige like it was armor, thought TikTok was a nervous condition, and believed fun should be limited to national holidays and funerals, and only if someone truly deserved it. Tasha hung up and said, "She's coming this weekend." I blinked. What do you mean, coming? She's concerned about the family's public image, wants to have a word about all this nonsense online. I burst out laughing. "Oh, honey, she's in for a ride." That Saturday, Loretta arrived exactly 3 minutes early. She stepped out of a navy blue Lincoln Town car wearing a taupe pantsuit, nude heels, and a look that could turn milk sour. She greeted me with a single kiss on the cheek and said, "I see you've been busy embarrassing the family name on the internet." I smiled sweetly. Only the parts of the family that deserve it. She sat stiffly at the dining room table as Chloe danced around in a tutu and Mikey wore socks on his hands. Tasha tried to mediate. I told her we were just having fun. "Fun," Loretta interrupted, "is not meant to involve fluorescent body paint and public humiliation." I sipped my tea. Fluorescent paint washes off. Memories don't. That night, after everyone went to bed, I had an idea, an outrageous, perfect idea. Mikey and Chloe were still awake, whispering about plans for the next prank. I knocked once on their door. "Kids, I need your help." They gasped. "You want to prank Aunt Loretta?" I grinned. "Oh no, we're going to feature her." The next morning, we set the stage. Chloe dragged the feather boa from last year's prank box. Mikey found his toy microphone. Tasha, God bless her, offered to distract Loretta with fresh scones and polite guilt. At 10 a.m. sharp, we lured Loretta into the living room under the pretense of filming a message for the church. She agreed, straightened her posture, cleared her throat, camera rolling. "Say hello to the congregation, Aunt Loretta," I said brightly. She nodded solemnly. "Greetings, brothers and sisters. I am Aunt Loretta. Suddenly, from behind the couch, Chloe released a handful of confetti into the air. Mikey hit play on the boombox. Lizzo blasted from the speakers, and I jumped into frame shouting, "And this is the Auntie Makeover Challenge!" Before she could react, I placed a glittery crown on her head, draped the boa over her shoulders, and handed her a fake scepter. Tasha stood behind the camera, laughing so hard she could barely hold it steady. Loretta froze, then blinked, then, I swear, smirked. Not a full smile, but definitely a smirk. She raised the scepter, looked into the camera, and said, "Next time, warn me. I'd have worn heels with more attitude." We uploaded the clip, titled it, "When Aunt Loretta Crashed the Challenge." It got 4.7 million views in 3 days. The comments? "Aunt Loretta is a vibe. This is her origin story. Give us a spin-off. I want to be feared and fabulous like her." We even got a DM from a cosmetics company asking if Loretta would consider being the face of their Gracefully Savage campaign. Tasha showed it to her. Loretta blinked and said, "Send me the lipstick samples. I'm not doing anything next Thursday." We started with markers and googly eyes. Now the whole neighborhood was dancing. And I realized We weren't just making jokes anymore, we were making joy. After Aunt Loretta's unexpected internet debut, an unexpected glow-up, things spiraled in the most delightful way. Everyone wanted in. Neighbors who'd never spoken more than a polite nod at the mailbox were now stopping by with ideas. The mailman asked if he could cameo. The barista from the corner cafe wrote "Glitter Queen" on my latte cup. Even Pastor Lonnie texted Tasha, "Sister Darlene, I'm available for pranks, sermons, or both." So Chloe said, "Let's go bigger." Mikey said, "Let's go epic." And Aunt Loretta, sipping lemonade on the patio like a woman reborn, said, "Let's go intergenerational." We blinked. She raised an eyebrow. "You think you invented family fun? I survived the 70s. Hand me the boa." And that's how Generations Got Game was born, a one-day neighborhood challenge. Every household had to include at least 2 different generations. Plan a prank and a good deed. Film it. Post with the hashtag #GenerationsGotGame. We made flyers, set up a Facebook group. Tasha built a Google form. She was finally all in. I even got a call from Channel 12 asking if they could cover the event. Saturday morning, our street turned into a carnival of creativity. The Johnsons across the way turned their lawn into an obstacle course made of pool noodles and hula hoops. The Nguyens dressed their grandfather as a rock star and held a fake autograph signing. The Marshalls filled their front yard with balloons and launched surprise pie throws at each other, whipped cream flying like confetti. Everywhere I looked, people were laughing. Grandpas chasing toddlers, teenagers filming their moms dancing badly on purpose. Seniors with temporary tattoos and glitter in their hair. One couple got engaged during a prank that involved a cake that said, "Will you marry my crazy family?" Our turn? Oh, baby. We went full production. Title, Granny's Got Moves, opening scene, Loretta sitting in a lawn chair reading a book titled Respect and Rules. Chloe sneaks up behind her with a giant foam finger. Mikey in a cape dives dramatically across the yard shouting, "The time has come!" I walk into frame with sunglasses, snap my fingers, and the music hits. MC Hammer. "You can't touch this." And we dance. Yes, we all dance, Loretta included. Feather boa flying, the video, 8 million views. A retirement home in Tampa recreated it. A middle school in Des Moines choreographed a flash mob. People all over the world started tagging their grandparents, but what mattered most? It wasn't the numbers. It was the moment when Mrs. Henderson, who lives 3 houses down and rarely leaves her porch, walked over during the last dance with tears in her eyes. She said, "I haven't seen people play like this in years," and hugged me. That night, after the crowd went home and the street quieted, we sat on the porch. Me, Loretta, Tasha, the kids, and a plate of leftover cupcakes. No music, no camera, just the hum of summer bugs and the glow of fairy lights. I looked at my family, sweaty, frosting smeared, and utterly content, and thought, this is it. This is what I want them to remember. Not how clean my house was, but how loud we laughed, how we made something together. We gave the world laughter. I didn't expect it to give something back. A year passed. The glitter faded from the carpet. Well, mostly. The hashtags slowed. The news stopped calling. But the joy stayed. Mikey grew 2 inches. Chloe decided she wanted to be a filmmaker. Tasha smiled more, even on Mondays. And Aunt Loretta, she now owned 3 boas, a fan club, and a custom mug that read, "Savage, Seasoned, Sparkly." Me? I slowed down. Nothing dramatic at first, just a little more breathlessness on stairs, a misstep in a dance routine, a tremble in my left hand when I tried to put on mascara. I brushed it off, told myself it was age. I was, after all, 70. 70 and tired. But then came the dizzy spell. In the middle of Sunday service, I sat down too fast. Everything tilted sideways. And before I could say a word, Pastor Lonnie's wife was fanning my face with a bulletin that read, "Joy is our strength." Ironic, really. The doctor ran some tests. A few more, then even more. I told Tasha not to worry. She worried anyway. The results came in with a shrug and a frown. Mild heart valve deterioration, not life-threatening yet, but we'll need to monitor. In other words, you're older, you're slowing, sit still. But I've never been good at sitting still. Still, I rested more, skipped the next prank cycle, sat on the porch while the kids filmed one without me. They called it Operation Surprise Grandma. I wasn't allowed to see it until it was finished. 3 days later, they showed it to me. It opened with Chloe's voice. This year, Grandma's been tired, So we decided to prank her with love. And then came the clips. Mikey folding my laundry, badly. Chloe making me toast in the shape of a heart. Tasha singing me a lullaby I hadn't heard since she was 6. Loretta trying to crochet a shawl and accidentally knitting it into a sock puppet. The final shot was the whole family holding up a sign that read, "We got you, Glitter Queen." I cried so hard I fogged up my glasses. The video went online. Again. Of course it did. And the comments this time, they weren't just laughing. They were grateful. One said, "My grandma passed before I got to do something like this. Thank you for showing me what love can look like." Another wrote, "My kids watched this and asked if they could prank me with a chore chart. I cried, then said yes." And then an envelope arrived with a gold embossed seal. Inside, a letter from a foundation I'd never heard of, the Heart and Home Initiative. They had seen our videos, heard my story, and wanted to partner. They offered funding to create joy rooms in nursing homes, creative spaces filled with costumes, games, art supplies, and yes, glitter in my name. I blinked, then laughed, then cried again. I turned to Tasha and said, "Can you believe this? I spent my 70th year being ridiculous, and now I'm a movement." She hugged me hard and whispered, "You were always a movement, Mama. We just finally hit record." I thought my legacy would be a shelf of cookbooks and a few family stories. Instead, it sparkled. 3 months later, we stood in front of a small building on the east side of town, once a dusty rec room in a nursing home, now reborn. The sign above the door read, "The Darlene Elkins Joy Room," painted in bright colors by a group of local teens. Letters surrounded by tiny handprints, red, gold, sky blue, glitter-dusted lilac. Inside, the walls were covered in photos. Families laughing, grandparents wrapped in feather boas, little kids painting old hands with bright, harmless color. In the back, a craft wall. In the corner, a costume trunk with everything from tiaras to superhero capes. And in the center, a table. Just a long wooden table, meant for mischief, tea, and stories. They asked me to speak at the opening. I stood there, in my lavender sweater and sparkly earrings, holding a microphone with hands that still trembled sometimes. I looked out at the small crowd. Families, nurses, reporters, kids. Tasha, Mikey, Chloe, bouncing on her heels. And Loretta, wearing her best satin gloves and a smile no one could have predicted a year ago. I cleared my throat. I don't know when people decided that getting older meant we had to get smaller, quieter, less joyful, but I don't believe in shrinking to fit other people's ideas of dignity. I believe in glitter. In family chaos, in the kind of laughter that makes your dentures rattle. We started this as a joke, but look around. This isn't a joke anymore. This is proof that silliness saves us. That a feather boa can be as sacred as a Bible verse. That pranks, good, kind, safe pranks, can remind us how much we love one another. I paused. Chloe slipped her hand into mine, and I finished. If you remember anything about me, don't remember how I aged. Remember that I played, that I loved, and that I never missed a chance to sparkle. They clapped. I cried. The mayor gave me a certificate that spelled my name wrong, and I loved it. A little girl in the front row threw confetti in the air and yelled, "Yes, Grandma!" I laughed so hard my glasses fogged again. Later that day, as the ribbon was being swept up and cookies passed around, a quiet woman approached me. She wore a brown shawl, silver hair, eyes full of sadness and something hidden underneath, something trying to live again. She said, "I haven't painted in 27 years, not since my husband died." I reached into the paint bin beside us, pulled out a brush, dipped it in yellow, and pressed it into her palm. "Honey," I said, "you've still got sunshine left in you. Let's use it." She smiled and began. That night, I sat on the porch again, the stars above me, the house humming with laughter and cocoa and too many late-night snacks. Tasha came out with a blanket. Mikey and Chloe followed, dragging pillows and their sketchbooks. Loretta brought tea, and I looked at them, my little legacy, my glitter gang, and whispered to the night, "Jack, we did all right, didn't we?" A breeze rustled the trees, and for a moment, I could swear I heard him laugh. Thank you for watching this story. If it made you laugh, cry, or feel like calling your grandma, please share it. Let's remind the world love doesn't age, and fun doesn't fade. Stay silly, stay kind, and don't forget, glitter is forever.